Tractate Sanhedrin, page 62. Yesterday we learned two important concepts when it's come to idol worshipping. There are those who does this type of idol worshipping out of following or love of someone. The other concept is out of fear. And we brought several examples in a biblical time. For example, the story of the book of Esther, or how Haman carried an image of himself and he asked people to bow down to him, and more. So basically we learn the concept that it's not necessarily a person takes this form of idol worshipping as a form of acceptance upon himself. He does that because he either loved certain fellow and he followed certain people, or he is afraid that certain people will do something to him or her, and that's the reason why. So we learned yesterday a disputation between Abaye and Rava. Abaye said, look, the person worship idol, and we look at the result. Abaye said, since the person involved in idol worshipping, that's the end of the story. Versus Rava said, no, if it wasn't in the intent and it was only by force of circumstance, we hold the person in a way not totally or not accountable for that. And we derive the next concept, which is the book of Leviticus describe a different form of offering to atone. We're getting close to Yom Kippurim, Rosh Hashanah, the atone. So we have the chiyuv chatat, the obligation to bring a sin offering for someone who's zdono karet. If you do something intentionally, you deserve a severe punishment. The Torah used the term that soul shall be cut off, and if it was unintentional, shigegato chatat, unwittingly, then the person bring a sin offering. Now, we understand that we differentiate also yesterday between individual, yachid, that need to bring kisba, it's like the female goat, and then we understand that if it was nasi, it's much less. If it was the head, obviously unintentional, he need to bring only se'ira. And we also, before we go to the subject itself, we differentiate between he'elem davar and shigegat ma'aseh. He'elem davar meaning the person is really have no clue, EADI, he does not realize that is total wrong. Versus the person know that something is wrong, but he thought that that's okay. So it's two different concepts. So with that, let's start on page 61b, 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Ve'amar Abaye mena aminala detanya kohen Mashiach. Kohen Mashiach, it's the idea of the high priest is anointed priest. So the Rambam in Ilchot Shigegot, chapter 15, explained to us, I'm reading from the Koran edition, if a high priest mistakenly ruled for himself that a certain element of the prohibition of idol worship is permitted. So that's called mistaken, Shigegat Maaseh. And he acted accordingly. He must bring a female goat as a sin offering, just like a ordinary person who engages in idol worship unwittingly. But if the high priest sinned unwittingly due to a practical error unrelated to Jewish law, whether he engages in idol worship or any other transgressor, he does not bring a sin offering. That's basically the sages' view. So here they said, Kohen Mashiach, which is Seirat Izim Lechatat. Avodat Kochavim, that he mistakenly involved in idol worship. Rabbi Omer B'shigegat Ma'aseh. Rabbi said that if it was unwittingly act, he thought that it's okay. The Chachamim Be'elem Davar. The sages said that if it's a lapse of awareness, which means he thought that this action is by Jewish law, it's okay, it's permitted. Veshavim, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and the sages agree upon שבסעירה יחיד ושווים שאין מבין אשם תלוי. So they both agree that the Kohen Gadol needs to bring a female goat, and as does a individual, ordinary person. And they agree that the Kohen Gadol does not bring a provincial guilt offering, which is ordinarily brought by one of the uncertain who is whether he committed sin that requiring to bring sin offering. So in this type of situation is exempt. One of the common responsa in this matter is a book called Trumat Hadeshen. He have a responsa in those years in Europe. It was the cardinal who carry obviously all kind of images, and people bow down to him in those years. And they asked the Trumat Hadeshen, since he understands the Jewish people have a big problem with that, and we see the Jewish people usually cover that image, if that's still okay to bow down to him or not. So he has a big response based on our Gemara. Anyway, hi shigat maaseh avodat kochavim hechei dame. Give me exactly the circumstantial evidence of the high priest's unwitting act, unintentional act of idol worship that is not due to a lack of awareness of the very basic fundamental halachot. So he said, if you hold that he's a synagogue and he bowed to him, and he realized that he's not a synagogue, it's idol worship, which can happen in this country. You see it a lot, that community move from one location to another. They buying houses and synagogues, and all of a sudden the community turned down and bad, and there's a lot of issues, and people just move out of the community, and all of a sudden you see other house of worship that have menorah and have other Jewish symbols. It was because those synagogues sold to those others. So obviously here, the person intent, he thought it's synagogue, he didn't realize that it's no longer or it's not. So you call it in our language, his heart is to heaven, is not even unintentional, any type of transgression. He saw some type of a image appear like the king, a statue of a person, and he bowed to him. And then he realized that that's idol worshipping. The Yad Ramah and Rashi explained that in those days they used to put it at the entrance of cities, and the people used to bow down, and sometimes it was even treated as God. If the person have a sincere intention to take that as a form of idol worshipping, meaning as a form of God, and he bow down with that intent, so therefore he's liable because he does that intentionally, and that's the Torah expresses that very clearly, that is a death penalty and is not to bring any type of offering. Page 62. Ve'ilo kable alei be'eloha, if the person did not accept that upon himself as a god, but rather bow to the status in order to honor the king, so that's nothing. Lo chlumu elalav me'ahava umeirah. We are referring to a person that does that due to love or due to fear of someone. So this proves that is also some type of idol worshipping. You see more than that in Tractate Sanhedrin, page 3. ורבה אמר לך לא באומר מותר. Rabbi said that no, the Braita is not referring to this case, but it's a case where the Kohen Gadol says that himself that the idol worship is permitted. So אומר מותר היינו להם דבר, that's basically lapse of awareness. באומר מותר לגמרי, that he said that he is entirely permitted. העלם דבר קיום מקצת וביטול מקצת. So you have here part is upholding and part is negating, which is when you have this important recognition by the high priest that idol worship is prohibited, and he by mistake assumes that certain idolaters' activities are permitted. So it's kind of, in a way, half and a half. That's the way Rashi explained based on the Mishnah, as we said, Tractate Horayot, page 3b. Tane Rabbi Zakai Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. Here is the list of a person that does as an act of idol worshipping. So they said, זיבח וכיתר ונסתח והשתחווה באלם אחד, אינו חייב על האחד. He sacrificed, he burned the incense, he poured a libation, he bowed down to our idol. He did it in the course of one lapse of awareness. So you need to bring one offering, one sin offering. He's not obligated to bring an offering to each and every act of idol worshipping. Amar lei, Rabbi Yochanan said to him, Puk, tnei lebara. It's like get out of the house of study. This rules is that one is obligated to bring an offering for each and every act of idol worshipping. Can't say that, and it's total wrong. Rashi here have expanded, but anyway, Amar Rabbi Abba Had Amar Rabbi Zakai Machloket Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Natan. What the word of Rabbi Zakai is the disputation between Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Natan. The Tanya Havara Lav Yatsa Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Here they talk about the prohibition of Havara. Havara meaning when the Torah speak about lighting candles on Shabbat. So obviously we have a prohibition against kindling a fire on Shabbat was a single one from the general category of labor prohibited on Shabbat. So he said this is an ordinary prohibition. That's the view of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Natan Amar lechalek yatsa. When Natan said that kindling a fire is like any other labor prohibited on Shabbat, and it was like a single out to divide the prohibited labors on Shabbat. So you see, the moment you say that one prohibited labor separately, the Torah tells us that each labor prohibited on Shabbat constitute its own separate prohibition. So you talk about the 39 is separate each one of them. So what you see here, one who is unintentionally violates several categories of labor is obligated to bring a sin offering for each and every act of prohibited labor. So leman de amar avara lav yatsa ishtachava name lav yatsa. The one who hold that kindling is when Shabbat was singled out to be mentioned in the Torah to teach that it's an ordinary person, then bowing it's singled out to teach that this is an ordinary prohibition, which is not punishable by any form of skila. The other way around, the one who said is single out and divided, so bow down is also single out and divided. So you see here that the brighter that Rabbi Zakai taught, that tells us that the person is obligated to bring only one sin offering, is follow the view opinion, which is the original opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Matkif la Rabbi Yossi dilmat kan lo kam Rabbi Yossi atam avara lav yatsa nafka lechiluk melachot me'achat mehena. So the Torah said in Leviticus chapter 4, from one of them. So we derive from that the prohibition that labor on Shabbat, that one is obligated to bring an offering for each category of labor that he violated from a different psukim. Sometimes he needs to obligate for one for all of them, for many, and sometimes he has several different transgressions and he needs to that is basically punished as one. Achat Shimon me'achat shem mishimon. We explained it several times in the past. If you look at us on the Tractate Shabbat, page 103, we have a long talk over that. But basically the idea is that that the word Shem is written with a closed mem. That's the end of the word, which Shimon is written with open mem. So the one who writes Shem with an open mem is still obligated to bring an offering. As there are places in the Torah where the mem at the end of the word is written as an open mem. Where there are places where the mem is not at the end of the word, it's written in a closed mem. Hena avot mehena toladot. Achat shehi hena zdon Shabbat, which is intentional labor. Ushgagot melachot, the unintentional unawareness of type of work. Hena shehi achat shehigat Shabbat v'zdon melacha. We say that here, hena, the unawareness that person have Shabbat, an intention, which is awareness, the act of labor that he will perform are prohibited on Shabbat. So he bring basically one sin offering. אבל אחד לא נפקא לחילוק מלאכות מדוכתא אחריתי, דכולי עלמא השתחווה לחלק יצא. Everyone said that if you bow down to single out to divide the prohibition of idol worshipping into different categories, and bowing to an idol is punishable by death, just as the other form of worship. So they said, חילוק מלאכת עבודה זרה נמי, טיפוק למאחד בעינה, אחת זביחה, מאחת סימן אחד. So we try to do the idea of idol worshipping the same way, which is we derive from the psukim, from one of them, one. So the same way as sacrificing an animal is an adulterous offering. The term from one, which is the one who performed part of the act of worship, which is one who did not finish slaughtering the offering. So it's only one of the organs, which is the one wine pipe or gullet that must be served in the during shchita, during the ritual slaughter. Heina avot zibuach kitur nisuch v'ishtachava. Mahena toladot shavar makel lefanei so toladot is a subcategory. For example, broke a stick before an idol that is worshipped in such a manner. So breaking a stick in that example is a subcategory of sacrifice, because the animal neck is broken when it is slaughtered. אחת שהיא אינה זדון עבודה זרה ושגגת עבודות, אחת שהיא אחת, שגגת עבודה זרה וזדון עבודות. So now the Gemara zoom in and said, Hi שגגת עבודה זרה יחידמי. Give me an example of circumstances that one is unintentional with regard to idol worshipping. Ikas about בית הכנסת והשתחווה לו, הרי ליבו שלהם, as we said earlier, if he thought that he's a synagogue, and he bowed down, and his heart would direct to heaven, he meant well. אלא דחזן דרתה, as we said earlier, he saw this type of a statue, וסגיד לה, and the person bowed down to that andarta. יקבל עליהם מזידו, he accepted upon himself as a god, so obviously that's intentional sin. he לא קבל עליה, לא כלום, he did not accept upon himself, he's nothing. אלא מעבר מיראה, you have to say that he did it, the idol worshipping out of either love or due to fear of someone. So he's unaware that this is prohibited. הניחא רבי דאמר חייב, אלא לרב דאמר פטור מעיקר לממר. So we understand by Abaye that he said that he is liable. So one of these that unintentionally, so you need to bring offering. But Rava said that he's not exempt. So what can be said? אלא באומר מותר. You have to say that the one who commits the sin that is permitted in general. טיפשו דבאי מן אמר רב מרב נחמן, אלם זה וזה בידו מהו. טיפשו דנו חייב אלא אחת, הלא קשיא וטיפשו. ומי מצית מוקמי לאן אקראי בעבודה זרה, דילו אך הכתיב משיח פר, ובין השיא שעיר וביחיד כסבה וסירה. ואילו בעבודה זרה, אתנן ושווים שבסירה כיחיד. So basically, when it's come to idol worshipping, you see that they are all the same rule, which is that the Kohen Gadol who did it unintentionally engages with idol worshipping, you need to bring a female goat as a sin offering. It is not as does an ordinary person. So you see, if it was unintentional person that idol worship, it derived from the book of Bamidbar, chapter 15. So you must have a two la midday, and there is nothing more. Kiata Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar. So when Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said, 62b, הכי תנא קמי. חומר בשבת משאר מצוות, חומר בשאר מצוות בשבת. חומר בשבת ששבת עשה שתיים בלם אחד חייב על כל אחת ואחת. מה שאין כן בשאר מצוות, if he does on Shabbat two מלאכות, two type of work, it's one lapse of awareness, he obligated to bring offerings, sin offerings to each and every one of them. מה שאין כן בשאר מצוות, unlike all the other מצוות. חומר בשאר מצוות, שבשאר מצוות שוגר בו מתכוון חייב. מה שאין כן בשבת, the other מצוות, if he does mistakenly, unintentionally commit the sin without intent, so obviously he is obligated to bring an offering. That's not when in common Shabbat, excuse me. Common Shabbat, you have to have which call the total מלאכת מחשבת עשרה תורה, the total thought. אמר מהחומר שבת ששבת עשה שתיים וכולי, איך ידע מעיל למדבר קצירה ותחינה, if a תלמידתי perform two type of work, such as reaping and grinding on Shabbat, דקבתה גבי שאר מצוות, אכל חלב מדם, ניסה מסער מצוות, for example, he ate fat and blood, החתרתם מחייב והחתרתם, both of them, you obligate to bring two sin offering. אלא גבי שאר מצוות, אינו חייב אלא אחת יחידמי, דאכל חלב וחלב, that he ate the fat with one lapse of awareness with another fat. דאכל חלב וחלב דקבתי גבי שבת דעבד קצירה וקצירה, אחד מחייב ואחד both of them, you need to obligate to bring one sin offering. והנדם רפוקט נלקנה, that's the reason why he said leave the בית המדרש. That's the way the Maram explains. מהי קושי עדיל מעולם ממלאך דעבד קצירה ותחינה, מה שאין גם בשאר מצוות. נתן לעבודה זרה כדי רבי ימי, דאמר רבי ימי, זיבח וקיטר וניסך בלם אחד, נאכל אבל אחת. If he did all this type of work, which is burn, pour a libation and all the other type of, in one lapse of awareness, he's obligated to bring only one sin offering. So Gemara said, answer לו, מתוך בעבודה זרה, קטן לספר, אומר בשאר מצוות, שבשאר מצוות, שגג בלא מתכוון, חייב. The other mitzvot, if a person does some act without intent, so he is nevertheless obligated to bring an offering. שוגג בלא מתכוון מעבודה זרה יחידמי, if you talk about someone who's does something unintentionally, you derive it from the prohibition of idol worshipping without the intent of perform an act. As we said earlier, if he thought at synagogue and he bowed down, so his heart is toward heaven. There is a statue and he bowed down to it. The same malach. How Rabbi was said to exempt. What can he say? So one who thought that he's okay, versus in Shabbat that he's totally, completely exempt, while one he's committed such a sin under those circumstances with regard to an idol worship, he's obligated to bring a sin offering. עד כאן לא בא מן הרב מרב נחמן אלא זה וזה, אלא היא לחיוב אחד, היא לחיוב תרתי פטור לגמרי, לקדמן דאמר. So Gemara said, "My kushi adil malulam imala achisha בעבודה זרה וסבר עבודה בשאר מצוות." ושגג בלא מתכוון לכסבה roku, he thought that he split, which is the swallower, ubol o. So מה שאין כן בשבת זה פטור, שנתכוון להגביה את התלוש וחתך את המחובר פטור. He intended to do what? For example, to lift a plant that was detached from the ground and mistakenly sever the plant that's still attached to the ground. So he's exempt. He's not liable for an unintentional act of labor on Shabbat. כבוד הרב נחמן, אמר שמואל, דאמר המתעסק בחלבים ובעריות חייב, שכן אינה. He says that one who act unawareness with forbidden fats or with those of sexual relations, forbidden one who accidentally consume forbidden fat or engage in forbidden sexual intercourse without intending to perform the act at all, so he's obligated to bring a sin offering. Because he derived pleasure from this transgression. המתעסק בשבת פטור, but one who act unawares on Shabbat is performing labor, he is exempt. מלאכת מחשבת עשה תורה, the Torah prohibit only plant labor. רבי יוחנן תעמד לא מוקים מתנית הרישה בחד תמה וסבב בחד תמה. אמר רבי יוחנן, מה מתרגם לי חבית? אלא אליבא דחד תנא. That's Gemara Bava Metzia, we study page 40. It said that they talk about barrel, that according to one Tana, I will carry his clothes after his bathroom. So it means to say that I will attend to him as a servant, because the Mishnah can be explained by dividing in two different views. I do not accept that type of explanation. So what you see here, that Rabbi Yochanan does not accept the suggestion of the first clause of the Braita. Here we're referring to idol worship, and the last clause is referring to other mitzvot. Now the Gemara goes further to the Gufa, which is the matter himself. So that's basically the view of Rabbi Yami. Whether the one who engages in several forms of idol worship in the same lapse of awareness bring more than one sin offering. Page 63, Amar Rabbi Yami, Zibeach v'kiter v'nisech belem echad. One who sacrifices an animal as an act of idolatrous offering, and burn incense and pour libation. He did it one lapse of awareness. So he said, Enocha velachat. He's obligated to bring only one sin offering. Amar Rabbi Ma'itama de Rabbi Ami. What is the reason? So he said, Amar kra lo ta'ov them. Torah said in Exodus 20, not worshipping them. Akatuv asan kulam avodat achat. The pasuk make all different variation of this worship as one right. So the Gemara asks, מי אמר רבי אחי? ואמר רבי שלוש תחוות בעבודה זרה למה? They say that there are three mentioned in the Torah, the type of prohibition against bowing to an idol worship. You see it in Exodus 20, in Exodus 23, and Exodus 33. Just the psukim itself. One said, you shall not bow to them, nor worshipping them. You shall not bow to their gods, nor worshipping them. And then in Exodus 34, for you shall bow to no other god. So the reason for all three, achat lechedarka. One is a regular standard matter of worship. V'achat shelo kedarka. One is not in a standard matter of worship. V'achat lechaleken. One mentioned to divide the idol worship in two categories. This one is obligated to bring an offering for every type of worship that he performed. So what you see here, when it's Abaya's view, is not follow the Rabbi Ami statement, that one is obligated to bring one sin offering for all of his different act of idol worship.